Good morning. Friday morning. It's good to be with you. Again, as you know, we're building on the 4 pillars of a healthy Christian business leader. And the pillars are healthy relationships, biblical financial values, biblical spirituality, and then balanced living. And this week, our focus has been on biblical financial values. And the topic for this week has been, when is enough enough? On Monday, we talked about, can we ever have too much? Tuesday, we looked at the greener grass. Wednesday, at the bigger barns. Yesterday, what price are you willing to pay? And today, our final day in this series is simply being content. Being content. We are programmed to not be content. Advertising is all about you not being content. Good morning, Jeremy. Good to have you with me again. And it's about not being content. It is about the fact that you need this. That's a whole purpose of advertising. You need this. You deserve this. Your life will be so much better with this. Whatever it is they're advertising, it doesn't really matter. It's always about how you should not be content. Now, if we're honest, we would all have to admit that we have bought something that was going to change our life. It was going to change everything. And in the end, the only thing it changed was our bank account. I've done this. It's easy to get drawn into the idea that I need this and it will make my life better. All of this feeds into the reality that we tend not to be content. So Paul talks about learning to be content. And he reminds Timothy that godliness joined with contentment is of great gain. That's in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. So again, that statement to Timothy is that godliness joined with contentment is of great gain. And sometimes we can strive for godliness, but without the contentment. And that has an impact on our spiritual walk with the Lord. And it has an impact on every other aspect of our life. And again, as we've talked about throughout this week, that gets us to the place where we're always striving for more, always wanting that next thing, always looking for a better opportunity. And there is a balance there, obviously. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I appreciate that Paul talks about learning to be content. Because for most of us, I would say probably for all of us, but certainly for most of us, that's a hard thing. It's hard to develop contentment. Contentment is not something that you're born with. In fact, when a baby is born, they're not content. And for the most part, there might be moments when they're content, but they are going to be screaming for whatever it is that they need and they want, and that's part of survival, and we get that. And so, not being content is I would say, a reality of being human. But if we're a child of God, then the challenge for us is to take that human side of us and to conquer that and to learn to become content. So what is contentment, though? And we're I want to talk about that. What is contentment? Well, contentment is, first of all, to rejoice with what you do have. Rejoice with what you have. So I don't know what your situation is right now, but look around yourself and thank the Lord for what you have. And that's the second part of contentment. Rejoice with what you have, and then to be thankful for all God has blessed you with. To be thankful that God has given you all that He has given you, and to there's the old song, count your blessings, name them one by one. That's a great song. It's a great reminder, because I'll tell you, when we get to those points where we're not content, and we sit down and we count our blessings and we count what God has blessed us with, we can become overwhelmed with just how much we have and how much we have received. And so I encourage you, count your blessings, and then Another part of contentment is to not covet what your business partner has or what your neighbor has. And so contentment, we're driven, again, as I said, through media and everything else to not be content. It's in us naturally to not be content. And we need to learn, we need to strive to be content. And part of that is to not be looking at, oh, our neighbors just bought a boat, or they just bought a snow machine, or they just got this, or no, we want to be content. And it's important for us to learn contentment. And so part of that is, you know what, maybe your business is not doing as great this year as somebody that you know, their business is just booming, and you're struggling because of, you know, the situation with COVID-19, and some of it might have been because of situations even outside of that. Be content, but not complacent, and I want to talk about that in a moment as well. And then to not be begrudging someone else's success. So of course, when we look at our neighbor, we look at our business partner, we look at our competition, and they're doing really, really well, we can get, sometimes we can get nasty. Sometimes we can get to that place where we just begrudge them their success, and that's not contentment. And so we want to, in our contentment, we want to not begrudge someone else's success. We should be able to rejoice with those who are rejoicing. And yeah, the scripture also says, mourn with those who are mourning. And so that's true. But also it says to be able to rejoice with those who are rejoicing. So someone that you know that's doing really well, rejoice with them. And don't begrudge them their success. But what contentment is not? And I want to just bring that home as well. And I've put down two things for that. The one is to be happy with the status quo. So this is where it gets a little tricky, because on the one hand, contentment is to look at everything you have and thank the Lord, and to be happy with that, and to not be striving after the wind. But on the other hand, contentment is not this idea that, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it. It's all in God's hands. I just got to kind of wait here and just see. And if God's going to bless me, well, then that's going to be okay. No. That's not contentment. Contentment is not being just happy with the status quo. As I've said last week, and you know, the reality is I'm always looking at 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead. I'm always thinking ahead. And I think it's important for us to do that. And that's true in what we have and everything else as well. And so we do, we want to be careful about our contentment causing us to simply become, in essence, lazy. And so we don't want that either. And so sometimes this complacency that comes in, and that's the second part I want to talk about, is that contentment is not being complacent. It's just sitting back and saying, oh, well, I'll just let life do its thing, and I'll just sit here and I'll just wait and see. No, we do need to take steps. Proverbs 16:9. And so the name of my consulting is Proverbs, or Pro 16:9, Proverbs 16:9, which is, man plans his way and the Lord directs his steps. And here's the thing. I believe with all my heart that God can't direct your steps if you're not taking steps. And that is really what contentment is not about, not taking steps. Contentment is not about complacency. It's not about just sitting back and waiting. And so today, as you go about your day, are you content without being complacent? And may we thank God for all that we have as we strive to serve Him more. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you again next week, Lord willing. Bye-bye.